Welcome to Bob's Song Lab. Every single day, incredible musical ideas start as simple voice memos recorded on a phone, eventually growing into fully produced, published tracks. But have you ever stopped to think about the tool that anchors so many of those songs? The guitar is easily one of the most versatile instruments on the planet. Yet the physical instrument you hold in your hands today did not simply appear overnight. It is the result of a 1,000-year journey. It's marked by continuous cultural adaptation, structural trial and error, and radical mechanical re-engineering. Today we are pulling back the curtain on the evolutionary history of the guitar. We're going back to where it all began. To understand where our modern songwriting tools come from, we have to travel back thousands of years to ancient Mesopotamia. Let's begin this epic musical journey together.
To understand where our modern songwriting tools come from, we have to travel back thousands of years to ancient Mesopotamia and the birth of chordophones, which are, quite simply, boxes built with strings. The great-great-grandparent of our modern guitar is the Arabic oud. Shaped like a deep, heavy teardrop with a completely fretless neck, the classic oud featured 11 strings grouped into double-course pairs. Traditionally plucked with an eagle's quill, the oud allowed musicians to microtune on the fly, sliding seamlessly between notes to mirror the microtonal pitches of human emotion. Because it didn't have fixed metal frets, it offered a level of expression that was unique to the era. And in the year 711, a major cultural shift occurred. When Moorish cultures crossed the straits into Spain, they brought this spectacular stringed instrument with them, planting the seeds for what would eventually become the guitar. Once it arrived in Europe, the instrument adapted rapidly to Western musical ears. By the 1500s, it shed its bulky bowl back for a lightweight, flat-backed, hourglass shape, giving birth to the Renaissance guitar. This early iteration was small, featuring a 4-string layout tuned precisely like a modern ukulele. But as the musical landscape shifted away from single vocal melodies toward intricate, multi-voiced polyphony, builders realized they needed more range. They added a 5th pair of strings, creating the Baroque guitar. These instruments were works of art, often featuring gorgeous, multi-layered, 3-dimensional parchment roses carved deep inside the sound hole. It became a global sensation, introducing percussive strumming patterns called rasgueado, alongside classical plucking techniques called punteado. Interestingly, conservative critics at the time dismissed it as loud, annoying music meant to disrupt proper society, proving that every single generation has its own version of rock and roll. For centuries, guitars didn't use permanent metal frets. Instead, players tied pieces of animal intestine, or gut, directly around the wooden neck. This gave songwriters a huge advantage. If an instrument sounded slightly out of tune in a specific key, you could physically slide the gut frets up or down to adjust your temperament. But by the early 1800s, musical tastes demanded structural consistency. The double-course string pairings were completely abandoned for 6 single strings, tuned to our standard E-A-D-G-B-E. Renowned master builders like Stauffer in Vienna stepped up the engineering. They extended the fretboard clean off the neck and even introduced adjustable bolt-on necks. Controlled by an external clock key, this allowed players to change their action height on the fly during performances. The guitar was becoming a true precision instrument. Enter Antonio de Torres. In the mid-19th century, he completely redesigned the instrument's anatomy, expanding the body template and deepening the sides. He pioneered an internal fan bracing pattern. This bracing allowed the thin wooden soundboard to vibrate with unprecedented efficiency. Torres didn't just make a louder guitar, he established the structural blueprint for every classical nylon string guitar that exists today. As the classical guitar design took hold in Europe, a massive cultural shift was brewing across the Atlantic. A German immigrant named Christian Frederick Martin moved to New York and established Martin Guitars. By the early 20th century, the big band era was exploding. Guitars were fighting to be heard alongside incredibly loud banjos and brass sections. Traditional gut strings just couldn't cut through the mix. Musicians wanted heavy steel wire, but that intense mechanical tension would warp a standard classical neck and pull a traditional tie block bridge right off the spruce top. Martin's solution was pure engineering genius. He invented the internal X-bracing system. This fortified the top wood to withstand immense strain while producing a brilliant driving projection. It was a breakthrough that established the foundation for the modern American acoustic guitar. Even the massive bodies of steel string dreadnoughts eventually hit a hard, physical wall. By the 1930s, jazz orchestras were getting bigger and brass sections were getting louder. Inventors realized that to get more volume, they had to stop relying on a hollow wooden body. Instead, they placed electromagnetic pickups right underneath the steel strings. The moment jazz pioneer Charlie Christian plugged in his guitar and began cutting through horn sections with fluid single-note solos, the instrument's role changed forever. But amplifying a traditional hollow body guitar introduced an entirely new nightmare: acoustic feedback. At high volumes, the sound would vibrate the hollow body into an uncontrollable loop. Pioneers like Les Paul and Leo Fender approached the problem with radical simplicity. If the hollow chamber is causing the feedback, eliminate it entirely. Pioneers like Les Paul approached the problem with radical simplicity. If the hollow acoustic chamber is causing the feedback, eliminate it entirely. Leo Fender soon followed, mounting pickups onto a solid block of wood. The result was infinite sustain and absolute tonal clarity without a hint of feedback. This change didn't just amplify the instrument, it allowed for massive stage volumes and a level of sustain that was previously impossible. The solid body electric guitar laid down the heavy bedrock for rock, pop, and the entire landscape of modern studio production. It transformed the guitar into the powerhouse of the modern world. That historical journey brings us right back here, to the present day inside the Song Lab. The evolution of our favorite instrument didn't grind to a halt with wood, wire, and traditional magnets. Today, modern songwriters have direct access to space-age materials like carbon fiber. This instrument I'm holding right here is constructed out of carbon fiber composite. Unlike traditional tone woods, carbon fiber is completely impervious to shifting weather, humidity drops, or temperature changes. It will never warp, and it holds immaculate intonation indefinitely. Its sculpted ergonomic lines allow for an incredibly rich acoustic-electric response. We've traveled from an ancient teardrop box all the way to high-performance carbon composites. Yet the core objective remains exactly the same: finding a beautifully responsive tool that perfectly translates the ideas inside your head into a song. Whether you are currently capturing your very first chord progressions on a basic phone voice memo or dialing in the final master mix, remember that you are an active part of a rich 1,000-year-old lineage of musical storytellers. If you love the craft of songwriting, the deep history behind our gear, and the beautiful journey of bringing new music into the world, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below sharing your own go-to guitar story, and let's keep creating. I'll see you next time right here at Bob's Song Lab.